can open it on my stream actually, and they can all watch it with me.
Should we do that?
Sure.
Sure.
Hello everyone and welcome to a Unibet poker tutorial. I'm Ian Simpson and today we're going to be talking about starting hand requirements around a 9-handed table. Now, this video is aimed at players who are relatively new to the game. They know the rules, but they're a little bit unsure as to what hands they should be playing from each position. So hopefully I'm going to be able to shed a little bit of light on that today. The first position I want to talk about is being on the button. Now, when you're on the button, you've only got two players left to beat, the small blind and the big blind. So if they both fold, you immediately show a profit. Not only that, if they do contest to your raise, you're going to have position on them throughout the rest of the hand. That means they have to act first before you make your decision, and that bit of extra information is going to be worth a lot of money to you in the long term. Because of these advantages, I recommend playing about 50% of the hands of the deck. That looks a little bit something like this. Now, that might seem like a lot of hands, and it is. You're going to be playing hands as weak as Jack-7 offsuit and 3-4 suited. But your positional advantage and the fact that you've only got two players left to make fold in order to make some money means these hands are well worth playing in position. The second position I want to talk about today is being the first person to act, also known as being under the gun. Now, when you're the first person to act, you've got 8 players left to beat. This means that there's a pretty decent likelihood of there being a good hand waiting out there to contest with you. So you can't play as loosely as you do on the button. In fact, I recommend playing about 14 or 15% of hands when you're under the gun, which looks a little bit something like this. So as you'll see, you'll start throwing away hands like King-Jack offsuit, like Jack-Queen offsuit. You won't be playing the worst pocket pairs, pocket 2s, 3s and 4s. You'll also be more selective about which ace-X hands you're going to play. So the worst offsuit ace I'll be playing is ace-10 offsuit. All the other offsuit aces I'm going to throw away. I'm also going to be more selective with the suited aces I play. I'm going to play ace 3, 4 and 5 suited, but I'm not going to play ace 6, 7 and 8 suited. That might seem a little strange, but it's because ace 3, 4 and 5 are that little bit connected. They've got a small chance to make a straight, which makes them that little bit more appetizing to play. Now, obviously, these are just rough rules of thumb. As you start going around the table, you're going to start playing more and more hands as you have less and less players to beat. But there are a few things that will influence exactly how many hands you play. First thing of these is your stack depth. If you have 100 big blinds, you can afford to play some speculative hands. 4-5 suited can make a really sneaky straight and a really sneaky flush. And if you have 100 big blinds behind you, it has the potential to be paid 100 big blinds from your opponents. If you only have 20 big blinds, hands like 4-5 suited, pocket 5s, speculative hands like this, they start losing a lot of their punch because you can only win 20 big blinds if that's all you've got in front of you, so that makes them a lot less appetizing to play. So the less chips you have, the less hands you play. Another factor that will influence how many hands you play is being on the bubble in a tournament. When you're in a tournament, only so many players get paid, and you really want to be one of those players who gets paid. So if you're close to getting into the money and you have a stack that's a little bit precarious, there are a lot of stacks out there that can knock you out, you have to be more selective about the hands you play in order to preserve your tournament life. Another factor that will influence how many hands you play are the players left to act behind you. If you've got a really, really good player on your left, they're going to have a big advantage over you because they're going to have position a lot of the time. You can mitigate the damage they can do to you by playing a lot less of the speculative hands and tightening up your range that little bit so your range is stronger and they'll have a harder time exploiting you by having position on you. So, hopefully that was helpful everyone, and thank you very much for watching the tutorial. Good luck at the tables. If you have 100 big blinds, you can afford to play some speculative hands. 4-5 suited can make a really sneaky straight and a really sneaky flush. And if you have 100 big blinds behind you, it has the potential to be paid 100 big blinds.
There you go.
From your
Stack
opponents.
depth.
Stack depth. Can you explain to me what does it mean, stack depth?
So, let's say we have 1,000 chips, and the big blind is 100. We have 10 big blinds.
10 big blinds, yeah.
If we have 10,000 chips, then we've got 100 big blinds, and that makes a big difference. Just like, because like I said in the video, if we have 100 big blinds and a speculative hand, we can potentially win 100 big blinds. And we need to be able to do that with these speculative hands. I know you did. I know you did. There's more. There's more to it. You press pause.
Okay.
Should we go through them?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. So we know the basics. If the hand has, can you see my PowerPoint again?
Yeah,
good.
you're fine, yeah.
So there's the basics. If the hand has an ace, if they're big cards, suited pairs, if they're connected, all these things matter for the strength of the individual hand. But more importantly, we've got to think about our position, like we've already talked about. We've also got to think about who are the players left to act. Because let's say you're on the cutoff and you've got an absolute whiz kid on the button.
Yes.
So you've got an absolute whiz kid who's going to take their go after you. They're going to make life very hard for you because they're going to have position on you. They're going to get to act last every time. And in order to mitigate their advantage they're going to have, we're going to ditch some of the more speculative hands because they're going to have a big advantage over us because they're a good player. They're not going to make very many mistakes. So that's a factor. If you've got players to act after you who aren't very good, well, you can punish them. You can play more hands with them and hopefully outplay them on the flop and things like that.
Yeah.
Stack size, we talked about that. The bubble. Do you know what the bubble is? I know you know what the bubble is. Tell the lovely people what the bubble is.
The bubble is the group of people who make money in a tournament.
Right. So go on. Sorry.
Yeah. If you're playing a tournament and there's 700 people in it and 80 people make money, those 80 people are in the bubble.
Right. So yeah, and if we have a precarious stack when we're close to getting into the money, we really don't want to bust out. It sucks to not make any money. So if we have a stack where we are in danger of busting, say we have 20 big blinds and all of our opponents have 50 big blinds, we have to play a little bit tighter because we can't knock them out, but they can knock us out. And we don't want to get knocked out, so we've got to ditch some of the more speculative hands.
Play nitty.
We've got to be a little bit nitty, much as I hate playing nitty.
Yep, no, that's that's fine, I understand that.
The last one I want to talk about is our perceived image.
Right.
Do you know anything about images at the table?
I imagine that that's just what people, the impressions that people leave on us based off of how they act.
Indeed, and what impression they have of us. So let's say that we get 10 hands in a row that are really great hands. We get aces, kings, queens, ace, king, and we're loving life. They don't know that we've had 10 really good hands. All they've seen is that we've played 10 hands in a row. So they're going to think we're a bit wild. Now let's say on the 11th hand, we get dealt a hand that we normally bluff with. Should we still bluff?
Probably not, because they're going to think that you're just playing very, very loosely, and
exactly. And if
you don't want to get caught out on your usual bluff because they'll call you.
Exactly. They're going to think we're full of shit, and they're going to call us, and then the bluff won't work, and we'll lose money, and that's terrible. Likewise, if you haven't played a hand for like an hour, you can use that to your advantage too. You can look really strong if you haven't played a hand in over an hour. And it might just be, you know, the deck hasn't been kind to you and you haven't received any good cards. So, you know, you can then play on that a little bit and maybe run a bluff that you wouldn't normally run because they're going to think that, oh, you've finally woken up with a hand. That okay? Cool. So if you look at that video, guys and girls who are watching, you can take screenshots and things like that. Because this was on the video. These are the hands that, you know, this is a rough guide like we talked about. There's all sorts of things that influence it. But when I'm on the button, I'll play this many hands because of the position I've got, usually. Sometimes I'll play more, sometimes I'll play less, depending on a plethora of factors that we won't get into. But just as a rough guide. Whereas if there are 8 players left to act, if I'm the first person to raise, I'll play a lot less hands. I'll play something like this. Okie doke? Alright. Let's move on. Let's get to something a little bit more complicated. So first things first, I want to talk about what we're going to be doing today. We've already done the first objective of today, which is to talk about what makes a starting hand playable. We also need to know what factors influence our decision to bet or check on the flop. So I've just told you to play ace deuce suited on the button, right? Well, now what? You're going to get dealt 3 cards and you need a plan. So we're going to start making some of those plans.
Okay.
Not only that, if we get time, we're going to select some hands that we're going to 3-bet and select some hands that we're going to call when we are facing a raise. So we're going to get even more complicated if we have time.
Oh, I remember this conversation from the plane. On
the plane, exactly. So you're one up on all the viewers. It's not fair. Okay, so let's have a look. I'm just going to just highlight the complexity of poker first. There are 1,326 different starting hand combinations in poker. There are 19,600 flops in poker. Hypothetically, we need a plan for every single starting hand from every single position, on every single type of flop, versus every single different type of poker player we can possibly encounter. And that's just scratching the surface of how complex poker can become. So poker takes a lot of work if you want to get really, really good at it. But it's all about baby steps and just learning little bits at a time and making plans that'll work for a lot of hands. The more plans that you make, the better you'll get at the game, the better you'll adapt when a new situation arises. So, let's make some plans. Here's a little quote for you. Oh, there you are. There you are. You and
There I am.
Always ask yourself before you make a bet.
Yeah.
Can a better hand fold or can a worse hand call? Whenever you make a bet, always ask that question. Can a better hand fold or can a worse hand call? So let's look at some examples. Here we've got Ace Jack suited. We've raised pre-flop. And we've seen the flop of 8-8-9. It was just the big blind who called us. That guy who's called Villain Fall there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they checked to us. They were in the big blind. They checked to us. And now we need a plan. Are we going to bet or are we going to check? And why? What's your initial instinct?
I mean, if he checks, then my initial instinct is to raise.
Why is that?
Because we have, we still have a really strong hand, and we have the potential to continue to make a strong hand. And by checking, he shows that he has, he probably doesn't have anything, and he's hoping to see another card for free. Unless he's bluffing us.
You said something important there. You said we've still got the potential to make an even stronger hand. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, we have, we still have the chance that we could get a flush. I mean, as low as it is.
We've got a backdoor flush draw.
And indeed, yeah, and we have 2 high cards, so we could still make 2 high pairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all that we've got going on for that hand, I think.
Yeah.
We're not really going to get a straight air at that, and it's basically just pairs and the
backdoor flush. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. There's a decent chance this guy just called out the big blind, so there's a decent chance that we have the best hand. Mm-hmm. Let's pretend that we know our opponent's cards. Let's pretend we know he has 6-3 of hearts. Do you know the chances that he has to improve? Because we have the best hand.
No.
You don't know?
No.
Okay, so any 6 or any 3 is going to make him the best hand, right?
Yes. All right. Yeah.
So how many 6s and 3s are left in the deck? Bearing in mind he's got 1 of each.
There's if he's got 1 of each, there's 6.
Yeah, there's 3 3s and 3 6s.
Yeah.
There's a little rule in poker called the rule of 2 and 4, and it's a rough rule. Every out you have on the flop has a 4% chance to come out if you see the turn and you see the river.
Right. So that again.
So the rule of 2 and 4. Every out on the flop has a 4% chance to have came out
write that down.
by the time we see the river.
Rule of 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Every out. Can you continue? Every out.
Every out on the flop has a 4% chance to appear by the time we get to the river.
4% chance to appear for the river. Alright.
Let's pretend we're on the turn. That number's halved, so it's 2%.
Right.
So going back to our example here, if he has 6-3 of hearts, any 6 or any 3 will make him the best hand. Let's pretend that we see both cards.
Mm-hmm.
We just multiply the 6 by 4 to get 24%.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So it kind of sucks if we check and we let him get that for free. So I kind of like betting for that reason.
For sure, okay.
One thing I said before was, can a better hand fold and can a worse hand call? Can a worse hand call here if we make a bet?
No.
Oh, are you sure?
Well, I didn't think if he has, let's say, what was it, 6 and 2? I don't think he's going to call.
He's not going to call
if you
that.
Make a bet.
What about something else?
I mean, he could call if he has, I don't know, like a 6 and a 7.
Right, if he has a 6 and a 7. He only has 7 high, but he does have 4 to the straight, and that's a worse hand than us.
Yeah.
So that's a worse hand that can put more money in. That's a good thing. Same for 10 jack. Same for 7-10. So they're all worse hands that can call. Can a better hand fold? Probably not. He's not going to fold a 9 here for a bet. At least not one bet anyway. One thing that's really important, you alluded to the backdoor flush draw. So if a diamond, let's say you do bet here, What are you going to do if the turn is the 2 of diamonds?
If the turn is the 2 of diamonds, then I'm probably going to put in another bet because we have a chance for the nut flush.
You got a chance for the flush. Excellent. So, just thinking about that story, you've raised pre-flop, you've bet on the flop, and you've bet on the turn. You're going to look really strong. And you would do this with like aces, right? So it's important you do it with some bluff hands as well, and that would be a really good hand to do it as a bluff. Okay?
Yep.
You could also hit some other good cards. Any ace or any jack would improve your hand.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, let's move on to another example. So in this instance, because I probably have the best hand, and I've got good cards that can come for us, I'm going to bet. And you ought to, so that's good. Let's move on to a little bit of a trickier one. So in this example, villain 7 here, he limped pre-flop. He just called the big blind.
Right.
We raised 3 big blinds.
Yep.
The big blind called and the limp called.
Okay.
They both checked, and now we've got a decision. Are we going to check or are we going to bet? And why?
Yeah, we're going to bet this.
Why are we going to bet this?
Because all we need is a jack and then we have a straight.
Good, so we've got good cards. We've got a draw.
Yeah.
We can improve on the turn, so that's a good reason to bet. Yep. Why else are we going to bet?
Why is our bluff believable? Let's put it that way.
Because we already started by making a bet. So villain 7 limped, and then we bet 3 big blinds.
Yeah.
So we already have set the precedence that we have a good hand, and we are willing to raise on that one.
Excellent. So we could have ace queen, right? That makes perfect sense. So we're going to lie to them. We're going to tell them we've got ace queen. That's essentially what we're doing, and it's a very believable lie. It's a very believable bluff. So going back to our 2 questions, can a better hand fold and can a worse hand call? Can a better hand fold here? What better hands can fold here? Because we've just got queen high, right? We don't have a pair yet. So what better hands can fold?
I don't know. Anyone has a 3.
If he has a 3, so if you had like 3-4 suited, that's probably going to fold. Anything else?
Yep. Maybe even anyone who has like a king and anything else.
Maybe a king. King will probably call 1 bet, but we can definitely bluff again on the turn to try and get rid of that hand, and they're not going to call 2 bets. What about a hand like pocket 7s? How happy are they right now?
Yeah, pocket 7s, I think even pocket 7s would want to get out of there as well because there's a king and an ace on the board. Yeah, because anyone who has any king or any ace beats them already.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of hands we can make fold that are better than ours. So that's a big win if we make pocket 7s fold because we just have queen high. So that's a better hand that can fold. That makes it for a good bluff. In this case, can a worse hand call?
No, I don't think so.
Not many. Yeah. Maybe like 6, 7 of spades.
Because there's not really that many worse hands that we. Yeah.
But
our hand is not really super great right now.
Yeah.
Because as well, there's two spades on the board. If anybody else has 2 spades, they have a very good chance to get a flush, which would be our potential straight as well.
Yeah, indeed. So in this instance, I am going to lean towards a bet for the reasons we said. We can credibly represent that we had ace queen all along or ace king all along, and if we do get called, we can get out of jail. Like you said, we can turn a jack and we can make the best hand that way. So whenever I'm making a bluff, I always want some way to improve. Just like this, any jack's going to make us the best hand, probably.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
Cool. Let's have a look at another one. This one's a little trickier. I showed this one to Emma and she didn't like it. She wasn't happy about it. So, we've got ace 10 of diamonds. We've raised pre-flop, and again, the big blind just called us.
Okay.
They check to us, and the flop is 10, 3, jack, with 1 diamond and 2 spades.
Okay, well, it was the big blind as well who wanted to play this one, and the big blind could play a bit more looser anyway because he's already committed a lot to the pot. And that's the only person we're playing against. So here we have a chance to get a backdoor flush. We have already a middle pair. We have a high card ace as well. So if any ace comes out, then we have a really strong 2-pair.
Yeah. So do we bet or do we check?
I would bet.
You would bet?
Mm-hmm.
How come?
Because, as I said about the big blind, I think if you're the big blind and nobody else is playing, then you might as well, see a flop, because it's cheaper for you to play and you're only going to lose money anyway, if your hand is relatively decent.
Yeah. So in this case, we probably have the best hand. You're right.
Uh-huh.
Remember the hand with the ace-jack? Let me just go back to it. This one? We were kind of worried that he could just have 2 raggedy cards and make the best hand on the turn if we check. Like, even if he has something terrible like 6-3, he's got a decent chance to make the best hand. In this hand, though, is that exactly the same? Because if he has like 4-5, what's his chances of winning? Very slim, right?
Yeah. I mean, he needs two cards for...
So our hand's a lot more protected than the ace-jack because we already have a pair. So while there are some cards we don't want to see on the turn, we're not going to be too happy if the king of hearts comes out or the queen of clubs comes out. There's not that many cards that I'm that afraid of, just the kings and the queens that aren't diamonds. So I would lean towards checking this one personally. One thing I'm really worried about is we have a middling strength hand, and I'm conscious about how big a pot I want to play with this. So let's say we bet 2,000 and then our opponent raises to 6,000. What on earth do we do then? Do we have the best hand or not? I have no idea. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
it's
not.
hard to know.
It's hard to know. So when it's a tricky spot like that, I think in this instance I'm going to check back. One advantage of checking back here is we've got something called showdown value.
Right.
So hypothetically, if we check the flop, we check the turn, and we check the river, we can just win because we already have a pair.
Yeah.
Whereas if we had 8-9, 9 high, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I'd be more inclined to bet a hand like 8-9 than I would a hand like ace-10. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. I want to control the pot with a middling
if he
strength
raises,
hand.
if you check and he raises, then what do you do?
So he's checked and we're gonna check back.
Of course.
Yeah, so we're gonna.
Yeah, okay.
So
he's a big blind.
So I would check back in this spot, but if I did bet and he'd check raises, then I'm gonna be completely lost, personally.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if they've just got 2 spades and they're bluffing, or if they actually have a jack. It's kind of hard to know. And we're going to end up playing a really big pot when we are kind of lost as to what we're meant to be doing. Okay? The other thing is, it's important when we do check back that we have some strong hands. Because this is a reasonably strong hand.
Yeah.
And when we check back, it's important to have some strong hands so that people don't know that we're always weak when we check. So that's something to think about.
Okay.
Cool. Let's have a look at another example. I'm giving you all the horrible examples, by the way. Because I'm not just going to say, okay, the board comes ace high and we've got ace king. What are you going to do? Because that's too easy. So what about this one? We've raised from early position with ace king. And again, it's just the big blind who's called us. Now what? They check.
When you have ace king and then you get a stupid flop like this.
Yeah, so they check to us. And now we've got a decision to make.
I mean, okay, so there's maybe a straight to be had. And there's maybe a flush to be had. But maybe I would probably still bet. Like, he's checked. We'll probably still bet ace king because we could still beat it. We'll maybe see what happens on the turn.
Well, we can still. We do have some showdown value.
We can still see the turn.
Yeah. We do have some showdown value with this hand. Like, hypothetically, if we check the flop, we check the turn, and we check the river, ace king high, that can win. That'll win a bunch of the time.
Yeah.
So that's something going in favor of us. I'd be much more inclined to bet if I had like 10 jack with a heart, because jack high can't win by itself. But this hand could win by itself. What happens if we do bet this and our opponent check raises? Sad beans, right?
Yeah.
What could
Indeed.
we... The other thing is, this board is really good. Well, it's pretty good for the big blinds defending. Like, he's going to have called on the big blind with a whole bunch of hands that love this flop. He can have hands like 5-7, 7-8, 9-10, 6-7, 4-5. All sorts of hands that aren't going to fold. So I don't know how much fold equity we have if we do bet here. So for me personally, and it's kind of... And we can improve, but we can also win just by ourselves. So I would be leaning towards a check here, just because it's kind of a dangerous board. It's a board that connects with them pretty well and hasn't connected with us well at all. So for that reason, I'd probably check this one.
Okay.
That okay?
Yep.
Any questions?
No, I get that. So, I mean, we're, not really in a great position, and we haven't hit anything.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance that from their position they would have played hands that would have connected with that board.
Yeah.
So I'll just check it and play it safe.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like we're checking and totally giving up, because, we can hit an ace or a king, or if the turn is like a really blank card, like a 2 of nothing, a 2 of diamonds, we could have the best hand. We could actually call a bet there, because they could just be betting with 7-8, right? So we could have the best hand still. So it's not check, give up, it's just check and let's fight later.
Yes, okay.
Okay? Check doesn't always mean sort of losing, relinquishing the hand. It just means, okay, we'll fight. Maybe we'll fight a little bit later. Okay, I hate this hand. This one's ugly. So,
oh no, this one is ugly.
We've got King 10 offsuit without a heart.
Yeah.
We've raised pre-flop. Villain 2 has called, and they've got position on his luck. And the big blind called as well. Now the big blind is checked. And now we've got to make a decision. We don't know what Villain 2 does yet, because, well, they get to act after us.
Yep.
So do we bet or do we check? I'll preface this with, I'm not sure on the exact answer. That's kind of why I brought it up, because it's a bit of an iffy one.
Yeah, this is weird. This is gross. It's like... I mean, the chance that someone else has an ace is pretty low, right? But
normally it is, but in this example, we've got 2 opponents.
Yeah, so then...
So that little chance is actually kind of doubled, right?
Yeah, that's pretty gross. And you can't even reach the full... You can't reach a straight with the 9 and an ace anyway, so you can't use all the cards.
What was the rule I told you? Can a better hand fold and can a worse hand call? Can a better hand fold here?
No. I mean...
He's not going to fold 9-10. He's not going to fold pocket 7s. Can a worse hand call? So whenever you're making a bet, can a better hand fold and can a worse hand call? In this instance, neither of those 2 things are going for us. So I think I'm probably going to surrender this hand.
Right, yeah. I think I would probably get out of it as well.
Yeah. What hand would you bet here as a bluff? So we can't just worry about the fact that we have King 10 here, because when we open from this position, we know that we've got a whole bunch of hands. We have pocket aces, we have pocket 7s, we've got King, Queen of Hearts. We've got to make a plan for all these different hands. So what hands might you bluff with here?
A pair.
You bet a pair? Yeah, you bet a pair. If you've got pocket 8, there's a chance that's the best hand and you want to protect it, and you don't want to see another big card come off. What about a hand as a bluff, though?
I mean, if you have any hearts, any 2 hearts.
Yeah, so if you have 6-7 of hearts.
Yeah.
So you could bet that hand, because you can feasibly tell your opponents you have an ace, because you've raised pre-flop, so it would make sense for you to have an ace. And if they don't believe you when a heart comes out, well, you kind of get away with it. So whenever I make a bluff, I want to have something that can improve on the turn and river. Like, with this exact hand, I think if I had the King of Hearts, I would actually bet. That would make it just good enough. Because if the turn came... Well, what turns could come out that we'd want to bluff with again? If we had the King of Hearts.
Are we at the King of Hearts, then? Any heart, or... Any
heart, we can bet again. And we're gonna double barrel bluff. We're gonna bluff the flop, and we're gonna bluff the turn when we improve with another heart. So,
do you feel like it's really a bluff if you have the potential to get a straight, which was is going to be arguably the best hand on this board.
Yeah. So it's what we call a semi bluff, and almost all the bluffs I do are semi bluffs. I almost always bluff when I've got the chance to get something better out of the hand on a.
Because I feel like a bluff is like 7 deuce. You know, like it's having absolutely jack shit.
Absolute
but if you have 2 hearts, that's like, you know, this could be a great hand for you because all you need then is another heart, and then you actually beat everybody who has the ace.
That's
unless they have 2 aces.
Unless they have it, 2 aces. Yeah. So it's what we call a semi bluff. You're kind of halfway bluffing because you don't have a pair yet or anything like that. You just have like high cards, but you know you've got the potential to make a good hand.
Yep.
What's the chances of making the flush? Let's pretend we had king 10 of hearts here.
It's 35%.
Why is it 35%?
36.
36. Why is it 36%?
Because maths that I don't understand.
Maths. What was the rule? Because maths. Fuck you, Simpson.
Because
somebody told
maths. Me it was 36%, and then it's the half on the river.
That's it.
It's just maths that goes over my head, and I know that's it.
It's the rule of 2 and 4 again.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's 9 more hearts left in the deck. If you had the king 10 of hearts, there's 13 hearts in the deck in this first place. There's 2 on the board. There's 2 in your hand. That leaves 9, and it's the rule of 2 and 4. So each heart has 4% chance of coming out by the river. There's 9 times 4 is 36. That's all that is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is scratching the surface. When you're doing work on your poker game, this is the kind of thing you need to do, and it's not just should I bet this hand, should I check this hand. It's which hands am I betting and which hands am I checking. So you can't just think about the one hand you've got to think about all the different hands you can have, and they've got to go into these 2 categories. You've got 2 baskets you've got to put all the hands in. So if you had ace 2 here, you would put that in the betting basket. If you had king 10 of hearts, that would go in the betting basket. And it's important that the baskets don't get too full, because if you bet too much, you'll end up bluffing too much. If you don't bet enough, you won't be making money enough. As a little rule of thumb, if you raise pre-flop and after the flop comes out, you should probably bet again between 50% of the time and 75% of the time. So you usually should bet again.
Yes. Okay.
So because aggression usually pays in poker, because every time you bet, they can fold and you win. Yes. And that's really important, especially in tournaments.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're ever unsure, just fucking bet and put them in the cage.
just bet.
Just put them in the cage. Just bet.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
Yeah, I know you do. Is that okay?
Yep.
Cool. Let's move on. Oh, sorry. Let's summarize. So, reasons to bet on the flop. So, do we likely have the best hand? And how likely is it that our opponent has a second best hand? So, I didn't actually give you any easy examples. Sorry about that. But let's say we had let's say we had pocket aces and the board comes ace, ace, deuce, and we just flop quads. How likely is it that someone else has a good hand?
It's very, very unlikely. I mean, at least, no. I mean, to be honest, I'd probably just, if that happened, and I know that they're not really going to have anything, I would probably just check. Because I want them to hit something, anything.
Beautiful. That's exactly the thought we need. Because it's really hard for them to have anything. We have all the good cards. So in that instance, I'm going to check. I'm going to slow play my hand. But if we have a good hand, say we've got ace king on an ace 7 8 2 hearts board, how likely is it that they've got a second best hand that can pay us? Well, it's reasonable, because of the 7 8 of hearts, they could have 9 10. They could have king jack of hearts. They could have a worse ace. They could have like ace jack if we have ace king on that board.
I mean, there I would probably put in like a smaller bet, because I don't want them to hit what they need. Because if they do hit that straight, or they do hit that flush or whatever, and then they've got me beat. So I mean, I need them to pay a fair amount to be willing to risk it.
Absolutely. Another thing we've got to think about.
Time to wake up.
Time to wake up. I know. Sorry about that. Another thing to think about is: do we have a draw? So
a draw.
A draw. So do we have a flush draw? Do we have a straight draw?
Right.
They're a great reason to bet. We usually want to bet on the flop. So if we're looking to try and bluff, if we have a draw, that's a great excuse to bluff. Other cards that can improve our hand, that are good cards to bluff with again. I want to go back to the ace jack example. So other good cards that are good bluff cards on the turn. So in this case there are, because any diamond is a great card to bluff with. A 10 gives us a straight draw. That's a great card to bluff with. An ace is a great card for us. A jack is a great card for us. Even a king and a queen could be good cards, because if a king comes out, well, we can just lie to them and tell them we had ace king.
Yeah.
And they can be really worried that we do have ace king. People tend to see monsters under the bed in this game. So be the fucking monster. And do we have showdown value? So in that instance with the ace 10 hand, we can just check and win because we have showdown value. We already have a pair.
Yeah, okay.
So if we have some showdown value, that can make us, like, kind of weak, middling showdown value like this. It can be inclined just to, let's keep this pot reasonably small and check this one. Okay, how are you feeling so far?
Okay.
Okay?
Feeling okay, yep.
Good. Alright, let's go on to another example. So, I just want to go through some terminology because I know that we've got a lot of new players here.
Okay.
So I've got a little video here. Can you see the video? Cool. Alright, so I just want to go over what a 2-bet and a 3-bet is. So
yep.
This is the big blind. It can be described as the first bet. It's the first forced bet. This guy is raised. That is a 2-bet. This guy is now 3-bet. So he's re-raised. And then me, we've now 4-bet. We've re-raised. Okay? So if you catch me using the words 2-bet and 3-bet, that's all that means. Okay?
Yep.
Just for the viewers at home. So the big blind is sometimes described as the 1-bet. If someone raises, that can be a 2-bet. If someone re-raises, that's a 3-bet. And then if they re-raise, that's a 4-bet. Okay, doke? Cool. Let's have a look at an example. We've got an old nit to deal with here. So an old nit. So we've got a regular player at our local casino, and he has a very set strategy. And over the years, you've gotten to know his tendencies very well. Let's pretend you play at this local casino 2 or 3 times a week, and you've gotten to know this dude really well. Whenever he 3-bets, whenever he re-raises, he always has aces, kings, queens, jacks, ace king, or ace queen suited. He doesn't 3-bet any other hands except those ones. When he flat calls a raise, so someone raises and he just flat calls, he typically has the following hands. He has something like a decent suited ace, like ace 8 of diamonds. He has a hand like ace 10 offsuit. He has the weaker pocket pairs. He has pocket 10s all the way down to pocket 2s. He can have some suited big cards like king jack suited. He can have king queen off, and he can have some suited connectors. So when you're in the poker world, and you'll have came across this word a whole bunch of the time, I'm sure by now, people say that this player is not balanced. What do you think they mean by that, Sophia? What does
it means
balance
that he doesn't throw in any bluffs or anything mixed in with the hands that he always plays. He's very systematic and he doesn't mix up.
Excellent, thank you very much. That's a great answer. So particularly when he 3-bets, he doesn't have any bluffs there, does he?
No.
He's just raising with really good cards. So he's not. So in that case, he's not balanced. What can we say about when he flat calls? Is this balanced?
No, I mean it's a lot of hands.
It's a lot of hands, and it's okay. But can he have a strong hand, like a really strong hand?
I mean, I would say that 10-10 is a really strong hand.
Yeah, 10-10 is a strong hand, but that's the only one. So out of all these hands he plays, and there's quite a lot there, he only has 10s as a strong hand. So when he flat calls a raise, he can't have a strong hand very often at all.
Yeah.
So in that sense, that isn't balanced.
Yes.
So let's look at question 2. What could this player do to improve his game?
Well, I guess.
So if you were in my shoes and you're going to give him some advice, what would you say to him?
I would say, mate, I'm not qualified to give any advice to you. But,
you totally will be.
Maybe.
You totally will be.
But maybe that he should be playing. I don't know, not so obvious, I guess. Not so.
Indeed. What did I tell you on the plane? Because we looked at 3-betting on the plane, didn't we?
Yeah, 3-bet. That if you're on the button, then there's a lot more hands that you can 3-bet. Like depending on your position, then you could 3-bet very, very. Like we could 3-bet ace 2 suited, ace 3 suited.
Excellent.
Ace 4 suited.
Why do you want to...
that he needs to be...
No, sorry. Go on, keep going.
Then he just needs to be playing a lot more hands to, and 3-betting a lot more hands depending on his position on the board.
Yes,
on the table.
So you mentioned 3-betting ace deuce suited there. Why have you picked ace 2 suited as a 3-bet?
Because you wrote it on my my Hilton envelope.
I did. I remember. Why else?
Because.
What's good about us having an ace?
That there's a lot of outs.
There's outs to an ace.
There's a lot of good outs. I don't know. There's a lot of good hands that you can make with an ace.
There is. What did we say about blockers?
Ah, yes! That's what a player uses when he made a bad call.
That's exactly what they do, yeah.
Because if you have an ace, then the chance that somebody else has an ace is lower.
Excellent, fantastic. So if we have an ace 2, because we have an ace, it's harder for them to have pocket aces or ace king or something like that. So that makes it a good bluff hand. We also pick the suited version because we can make a flush and that can get us out of jail.
Yes. Remember,
we don't bluff we very rarely bluff where we can't improve. So because it's suited, it can improve. So it's a good hand to bluff with pre-flop.
Mm-hmm.
What other advice would you give this player to improve his game? Think about when he flat calls. What would you do about this range? Because we said it doesn't have any strong hands in it, right?
Yeah.
So what would you tell him to do?
Yeah, really. I mean, I feel like I've just said this. I don't really know anything other than he should be 3-betting more on other hands.
Mm-hmm. And you should flat call some strong hands too.
Yeah, that of course.
So you could flat call with ace king. Sure. You could flat call with
because
aces.
He needs to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so let's pretend that we don't give this guy any advice. Let's pretend we're horrible and we want to take all his money, like we do, because we're playing cards. That's kind of the idea. How would you exploit this player? What are you going to do to turn this guy inside out? How are you going to beat him?
I mean, when he 3-bets, then, and I don't have a hand that any of these ones, then I probably wouldn't call. But if I had something like 10-10, then I might play it just on the chance that I hit the 10 on the on the board, because then I know that I haven't beat, and I know which cards he has. So I know that if he has, say for instance, there's an ace on the board, and then maybe not.
No. I mean, you're on the right path.
If he has an ace, if there's an ace on the board, then I know that this is like ace is a hand that he would 3-bet. So.
But he can also
that if he has ace king or ace queen suited, then I know already that he has a pair higher than me. So it's a good indicator that I should get out if I don't improve any better than a ace pair.
Excellent, good, I like it. So we can play speculative hands perfectly against him when he 3-bets. We can just do the maths. Do we have the odds to call? Let's say we have pocket 5s. We're not gonna make a mistake against him. We're gonna call a bet, and if the board comes if the board comes with a 5, we're gonna take all his money, like a hell of a lot of the time. And if we don't have the odds, we're not gonna make a mistake. We're just gonna fold. What can we do when he flat calls if he doesn't have any strong hands?
So that again. What are we gonna do if
let's say someone raises, this guy flat calls, and then it's our turn. What can we do then? Bearing in mind he doesn't have any strong hands. Not very many strong hands.
We can re-raise him.
We can bluff. We can bluff him really mercilessly because he can't.
Because he won't call it with those hands.
Yeah, he can't contest. He hasn't his hand range isn't strong enough to be able to contest, so we can bluff our ass off. He's told us that he doesn't have aces, kings, queens, jacks, ace king, or ace king.
Yes, so we know he doesn't have any premium hands, and he has a decent hand. But he's not gonna call our 3-bet with any of his decent hands. So we could just always make him fold by betting.
Yeah, by raising. Excellent. All right, so let me go through something. So when we're looking at balance, this is a little flowchart, if you like, and we've got to kind of construct our ranges. We're going to put the hands we play into various categories. The folding part's easy, so we'll get rid of that. When we're facing a raise, we've got 2 decisions. Well, we've got 3 decisions: fold, call, or 3-bet, re-raise. Now, the fold is easy, but when we 3-bet and when we call, both of these categories need to be seeded with strong hands. And both of these categories need to be seeded with speculative hands. I can't tell you honestly how often you should flat call with a strong hand, because there's a plethora of different reasons that are going to influence that. But it is important to flat call with a strong hand so that people can't bluff you when you would just flat call. Yes. Likewise, for the reasons we said before, it's important to 3-bet with speculative hands, because if we only 3-bet the good hands, well, people aren't going to pay us. When we get pocket aces, we don't want them to think we have pocket aces. We want them to think that we've got king, queen offsuit, and then they pay us lots of money, and then we're rich. Okay, I want to look at ace king specifically. This is the last thing we're going to do today, I think, because we've been going for about an hour now. So I think ace king should be 3-bet, and I think ace king should be flat called. I think it has to go in both categories. Why do you think I think that?
Because I would say ace king is a premium hand, and we need to mix it up, because obviously, I mean, we just went over this, right? That we need to play balance, so we need to do a fair amount of 3-betting and calling on various different hands.
Good.
Including our premium hand ace king.
Yeah. So if we flat call and the board comes like that, people typically don't expect you to flat call with ace king.
Yeah.
When you see someone flat call, most people think, they can't have ace king. So we can ruin their lives by flat calling with ace king, and when the board comes ace high. Because if we never have ace king when we flat call and the board comes ace 2-2 or something like that, our opponents can mercilessly bluff us because we can't have a really strong hand. But if we can flat call with ace king and they think we can't, well, then they might just empty the clip at us. They might just bluff at us, and we go, ha-ha, call and win. So this is what we mean by being balanced. When we flat call, we can have a really strong hand on a flop like this because we flat call with ace king.
Yeah.
That okay?
Yeah.
Cool. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope that was helpful. Have you got any questions?
I mean, not just now. I think, but the main struggles that I'm going to have with all of this is to do with the maths. Like, right. I can't figure it. Like I said with the whole flush draw and the straight draw. I only know the percentages. I can't.
So would you like me to do a session on pot odds and implied odds and maths?
Yes.
Basic maths. Cool. I can do that. So I don't know when. Maybe sometime in the new year we could do a session on that, on the odds behind a poker.
Like I understand, basically, and I understand why the percentage would be that, but I could never do the maths in my head. So I just need to know the percentages to go with. I can.
Yeah, cool.
I can't do any math in my head.
Okay. Well, for starters, you can, because my maths teacher wife is watching and she'll kill me if I don't tell you that you can.
That's true.
It just takes practice, and we'll do some practice. We'll look at pot odds, we'll look at implied odds, and we'll look at stuff like that, and that's definitely a leak we can plug.
Okay.
Cool. All right.